The Pretty Pink Posh fall release is available now, and it is filled with stamps, dies, stencils, foil plates, and embellishments, all celebrating the beauty of fall. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and I'm super excited to show you this release because I'm so excited about fall, and everything in this release is celebrating fall in the cutest way possible. This release is packed to the brim, so I want everything to have a little time in this video. So let's jump right into the card making, and I'll share the new supplies and their names along the way. I'm starting with stenciling, so I placed my waffle flower 8.5 by 8.5 grip mat down on my glass mat. This is the layered fall wreath stencils. It's a 2-pack, and you can see there's kind of an oval shape that you can have either vertical or horizontal. So I've placed that on top of an A2 piece of white cardstock down onto the grip mat to hold everything into place. I have some shader brushes, and the reason that I'm using small shader brushes rather than a larger blending brush is because I want each of the leaves to be a different color. So I'll use several different shades of Distress Oxide ink and these shader brushes to get a really pretty look. And even though fall tends to use darker or more gem-like colors, I'm sticking with some light colors here. I love the pinks, oranges, and yellows even for fall. I know they tend to be more spring or summery colors, but I think they really allow you to use those color combinations into fall when you're using them for leaves and things like that. So this stencil set is a 2-pack. The second stencil creates the stems, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Of course, you could just use 2 colors, one for the stems, one for all the leaves, but I really like the ability to use spot coloring like this of different colors. Then I'll trim that panel down to 4 by 5.25 so that I can mat it on some craft cardstock, which then will bring in a little bit more of the traditional fall color there. And I'm using the pumpkin shaker dies. You can cut out the background pumpkin and you can just use that as is, or you can also cut out a frame and create a shaker card. So that's what I'll do. I also have a piece of acetate from the Stamps and Dies that Pretty Pink Posh sent me, and I'm just cutting it out slightly smaller than the die itself so that I can use that as my shaker window. I have my precision glue press to get a fine line of glue, and I'll adhere the acetate down to that frame that I created by cutting out the base and then cutting out the 3 spots of the pumpkin. Now I'll adhere the base down to the card. I like to use the base first and then build up the shaker on top. I think it makes it easier to align everything. There's also a stem and a leaf that are really easy to just tuck under that pumpkin. And I have 2 pieces of white fun foam cut into the shape of that outline so that I can build up some dimension and it'll give me a place to put some shaker goodies. This is easy cut adhesive from Thermoweb, and I use that to cut out fine dies. So peel back 1 protective layer and lay your cardstock right on top. It's a thin sheet of adhesive, so you'll just lay your cardstock on top and then replace that protective layer so that you can cut it down to the size. Then place your die on the cardstock side, and you can hold it in place with a little bit of washi tape and run it through your die cut machine like that, and it will create a sticker. So the thankful, even though it's a thin kind of delicate word, it's really easy to adhere down to the shadow that I cut out of vellum. Now I'll take that precision glue press and put a little bit adhesive on the back of the 2 pieces of fun foam. Once that's dry, then I can fill in with my matte gold confetti mix. I love the matte metallics, and they have both gold and silver in this release. Then place a little bit of glue, making sure to have the glue touch each other all over this white fun foam because you don't want any shaker goodies squeaking out from a little spot that you didn't put glue. Then place that window right on top, trapping the shaker goodies inside. For the sentiment, I use the Thankful Shadow dies, and I'm using a little bit of the precision press glue just behind the cardstock there so it doesn't seep out and you can't see it through the vellum. But I love the colors in this card and how much fun it was to put together a shaker. For the next card, I'm using the Fall Cornucopia dies. This is a great die set. Comes with the Cornucopia and also a ton of veggies and fall elements like leaves, mushrooms, all kinds of things like that. So I've die cut everything in colorful cardstock, and now I'm using some ink blending and a little bit of liquid glue to adhere everything together. So I'll use my shader brushes again because I just want a hint of ink on the outsides of these die cuts just to add a little bit of something special to them. For the Cornucopia, you just adhere this round piece to the opening, so that creates the two-dimensional look of that Cornucopia. There are a bunch of different things, like I mentioned, that you can layer the dies on top of each other, so I like to just cut them out of colorful cardstock. And then you can add some ink, of course, but if you have to ink blend everything, to me that gets to be a lot of work because look at all the different colors that I use. So if you have more ink than you have of colorful cardstock, obviously that's the way to go. If you have lots of colorful cardstock and some inks, then you can do it this way. So for this gourd, I have a slightly darker color of green to make the stripes on the gourd, and then just a hint of that on the stem as well. So the cool thing about these dies is that the little elements are attached. It's one die that is attached for the pear, the stem, and the leaf, which means that you don't have those itty teeny tiny little bitty dies that you can easily lose. I've lost so many things like a tiny stem in my carpet and it gets vacuumed up. So I really like when all of those little elements are stuck together on one die that you can just pass through with one color. So that's mainly what I'm doing. I'm using one color of colorful cardstock, and then I add another color in with the ink so that I don't have to cut it out 2 and 3 times. With the grapes though, I did cut it out twice because I wanted the purple and then I wanted the green for the stems. Then there's a bunch of leaves as well, and just a little bit of ink on those too. Again, just adds a little bit of shading to those so it looks like maybe you did some coloring or something like that, when really you're just adding a little bit of ink to the edges. It's nothing fancy. For this stencil, I'm using the layered Woodland stencils. Now this is a 4-pack of stencils. So since it's a 4-pack of stencils, I'm not going to color each one individually. I've decided to do mainly one color per stencil. So I have the leaves was the first stencil. Then I have actually mushrooms and smaller green leaves. So I did do those a couple of different colors, and that's where I bring in those shader brushes again. So again, there's caps for the mushrooms and stems for the mushrooms. There's green leaves. There's some other singular leaves that I did in a yellow color, and it really creates a pretty fall background. Here I have the stems, doing those all in a brown color of Distress Oxide ink. And of course you can add some white gel pen details to that mushroom through the stencil by coloring it in those little dots. So I'm popping up the Cornucopia. I like to try to keep my foam adhesive towards the center of a large die cut like that if I want to be able to put things behind it. So it just gives you the option. Here I'm actually putting most of these items in front of the Cornucopia, like they're kind of falling out of the opening there, and just layering those with foam adhesive as well. But I had the ability to put the cornstalk and the wheat behind the Cornucopia. This is the Sentiment Strip Fall Stamp Set, and there's a bunch of fall greetings and messages, and I'm combining it with a previously released Sentiment Strip die set. So I cut out the flag first, and now I place it back into the opening of where I die cut it so that I can stamp it exactly where I want it on that die cut. And I'm using some white embossing powder to emboss that, and then a little bit of ink blending on the edge of that flag so that it matches with the rest of the die cuts on this card. And here I definitely used more of those bright, vibrant fall colors, so that was fun for a change too. Next up, we have the Fall Mug Editions dies, which is an edition set to the mug die set. So this edition set comes with a bunch of fall elements that you can die cut and make different types of cards. So this is a cinnamon stick. I just want to show you some of the dies that are just so cute. There's a little stem with berries. There's an acorn. Again, these are mostly layering dies so that you can really create some fun, cute die cuts with them. There's a little scarf with a knot. There's a mushroom and a sunflower and a little fox, some leaves. There's just a bunch of elements that can be layered on top of each other to create the cutest little effects. For the fox, I actually created a couple of layers by cutting off the ears on this one face here so that I could put it down onto the brown so that we have that dual colored face. And then for the fox, there's a little nose and mouth. There's little eyes, as well as there are little ears that you can place inside to create that little pink look inside the brown, but just such a cute little face. And like I mentioned, all of those teeny tiny dies are included on the one die. So this is the Deco Leaves stencil. I'm just going to use one color of ink on top of this stencil. So I'm using a larger blending brush to get the color down quickly, but I'm still using my grip mat to hold it in place. Next, I'll take the mug from the original die set and put that down as the base. You can see that it's cut so that you can place things inside the top, like this little stick with a mushroom and the cinnamon stick and the little stem with berries. I just went to town and I tried to use as many of the die cuts that I could on this because I love them all. They're so cute. So I put the fox on and then put the scarf on there. And then I have the mushroom and some leaves and some elements that I can place behind the mug or next to the mug, as well as the sunflower right on top. So go to town and have fun with these little die cuts. Again, I have one of those sentiment strip dies and sentiment strip fall stamp set that says sending heartfelt thanks. Just a fun card to create. Next up, we have the stitched torn rectangles, and I'm using two different sizes to create a frame because I want to make a shaker out of these. So again, I have cut two different sizes together so I can create that nice stitched torn rectangle frame and place that on some acetate and use that as my shaker window. With this though, I don't have to cut out fun foam. I can use just regular foam tape because it's thicker. So here I am, just once again, ink blending the edge of some craft cardstock and this alabaster cardstock as well, just to give it kind of a fall feeling. And now I'll cut those pieces of foam tape. Like I mentioned, they can fit right behind this frame because I made it thick enough between those two sizes. Once I see basically where the window opening is going to be, I can add in my shaker goodies right on the base. So I have all four colors that were released this time, the matte gold and silver, the espresso, and the mossy green. Then I can peel off those protective layers of the foam tape and just place this window right on top, trapping those inside. Next up, we'll use the hot foil Thankful script plate. So I'm using it with my Spellbinders Glimmer machine. I have some craft cardstock and some gold foil, which is a really pretty combination. I also have some rose gold on white and a couple of other colors that I foiled too. So I'm using that gold on craft and I die cut it out with the shadow die. This is the Autumn Pumpkin stamps and dies. I didn't show all the coloring because I didn't do anything too fancy. Just colored them in with some Ohuhu markers and added some white gel pen details like I normally do. And now I'm using those around the frame of the shaker. So sadly, you don't see the alabaster frame as much because I really loaded it up, but I decided to use alabaster as the background. So it ended up all coming together nicely in a large shaker window. This is the fall jar stamps and dies. I love these jar sets because they are so much fun to color in, but they're also fun to fill those jars with the different images. So I have, you can see a little mouse, there's a tag, a pumpkin with some leaves, there's a bow for the tag, a sunflower, an acorn, there's so much. And these are fun little images to color in because they're not so small that you can't do any blending and shading, but they're not so large that it takes you forever and a day to color them in. So here I have some leaves, again, just a little bit of outlining and then blending those colors out, a little mushroom as well, and a butterfly, which didn't really have much blending and shading to it. I just colored it in. Then I have the coordinating dies to cut them all out. This is the Argyle layered stencils. This is actually from a just recent release, and I loved it so much that I decided to use it again this time. And I'm using some fun but slightly different fall colors. I have like kind of aqua with an orange and a yellow, which I think makes kind of a fall color combination, but it's also a little bit bright and fresh. So that pumpkin can actually fit right inside the jar, but I decided to put it in front of the jar and then fill the jar with some other little elements and add a gold foiled thankful on top. For the next card, I'm using the Deco leaf stencil again. I have it on some A2 white cardstock and then on the grip mat to hold it in place. And then I'm using some pink ink to color it in, something kind of bright and vibrant, but a really pretty color. Now I'm going to shift the stencil over to be in the open space between those pink Deco leaves. And then I used navy on that, and I'll mat it on some navy cardstock. Now this is the Acorn shaker die. So again, this allows you to cut out that frame as well as the base and the acorn topper as well. So I cut everything in pink, a light pink, and then I decided I wanted the acorn topper to be that darker pink that's in the stencil. So I just glued them together. I thought it would add a little dimension. I love the little dotted lines on the acorn cap as well. So once again, I have two pieces of white fun foam cut out and adhered together with the precision glue press. And I'll let that dry, and then we can start working on the base. So I adhere the base down to that background, and that will show me exactly where to place the frame. That's why I like to do those bases. So even if you don't care if the layering stencil shows through, I really like to use the base. I think it makes it a lot easier. So I poured in some of the espresso confetti mix, and then I have a little bit of glue on the white fun foam so that I can lay down the window with the pink frame on top. That will trap the shaker goodies, and then I have that cap. So here's another of those sentiment strips, and it just says autumn greetings. I actually stamped it in that navy blue ink for a fun, different sentiment color. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love fall and I can't wait for it to come. But I'd love to hear if something caught your eye from this release. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. Okay. I don't know about you, but I love, I was going to say adore and love at the same time. It came out, I love. I don't know about, okay.